In the luxurious setting of Bayside Marina, where only the shine of money seems to hold value, a humble fisherman named Marcus arrives with a dream to buy a yacht. Dressed in simple clothes, he quickly becomes the target of laughter and humiliation from the salespeople. However, what no one knew was that Marcus was not just a fisherman. He was a billionaire living life on his own terms. His return, filled with revelations and justice, will leave everyone stunned. Marcus Thompson was a man of the sea, not just by profession, but by vocation. Born and raised in the small fishing village of Cedar Key on the Florida coast, he knew every wave, every current, and every corner of the Gulf as if they were part of his own soul. With dark skin, marked by the sun and salt, and curly, unkempt hair, Marcus carried the simplicity of a life filled with challenges. His hands, calloused and sturdy, were witnesses to years of facing the elements, but his heart dreamed of something beyond the horizon. The village of Cedar Key was small and quiet, with wooden houses painted in faded colors, dirt roads, and the strong smell of fresh fish always lingering in the air. Marcus lived in a modest cabin, surrounded by fishing nets and his old boat, the Esperanza. He had inherited it from his father, who was also a fisherman, and with it, he had faced storms and calm days, always respecting the sea that provided for him. It was a hard life, but Marcus never complained. The sea was his home, and there he felt complete. However, in recent years, his heart began to nurture a distant dream, to own a yacht. Not just for fishing, but to sail freely, explore places he had never seen, and feel the true sense of freedom. The Esperanza was already old and unreliable, and although Marcus knew that a luxury yacht was well beyond his means, the idea began to take hold of his thoughts. After much reflection, he decided he needed to try. He had heard rumors that in Miami there were luxurious marinas filled with splendid yachts. Some fishermen from Cedar Key had mentioned a marina called Bayside, where the wealthy docked their vessels. Marcus knew it would be a strange place for him, but the determination to fulfill his dream led him to face this challenge. Upon arriving in Miami, the city pulsed with vibrant energy, very different from the calm of Cedar Key. The skyscrapers shone under the sun, and the streets were bustling with luxury cars. Marcus pressed on, his heart pounding, until he finally spotted the Bayside Marina. The contrast could not have been greater. Where his life was simple and rustic, here everything was opulent and sophisticated. Huge yachts with polished hulls and extravagant details floated majestically in the calm waters. As he entered the marina, Marcus immediately felt out of place. The white walls and polished wooden floors were immaculate, and the few staff members circulating seemed to ignore him. He was dressed in a worn cotton shirt and pants that had seen better days, while around him elegantly dressed men and women chatted and laughed, oblivious to the presence of that humble fisherman. Marcus took a deep breath, trying to shake off the insecurity that washed over him. He knew he was there for a reason, and nothing would stop him from pursuing it. With firm steps, he walked up to the service desk, where a blonde woman, with a professional smile, greeted him. "Welcome to Bayside Marina. How can I assist you today?" she asked, her voice smooth, but her gaze already drifting to a more luxuriously dressed client beside her. Marcus hesitated for a moment, but the determination in his heart pushed him to speak. I want to buy a yacht." The woman looked at him in surprise, her eyes widening slightly before she masked it with a polite smile. "Of course, sir. What type of yacht are you looking for?" He felt the embarrassment growing as he noticed the veiled shock on her face, but he continued. "A yacht for sailing. Something reliable." The woman began typing something on the computer, but Marcus could see that she did not take his intentions seriously. "I can show you some options, but I need to know your budget," she said, with a tone that made it clear she doubted his ability to afford the purchase. Marcus's heart tightened, but he forced a smile. "I don't have much, but I want something I can call my own." "I understand," she replied, now with a more neutral tone. "I'll check some options and be right back." As she walked away, Marcus looked around the marina, admiring the yachts surrounding him. Each one seemed to represent a world he had never known, full of luxury and possibilities. But for him, the most important thing was not the luxury, but the freedom to sail wherever he wanted. He knew that this place was the opposite of his simple life in Cedar Key, but he was determined to realize his dream, no matter how distant it seemed. As Marcus waited by the counter, his discreet and simple presence soon attracted the attention of other Marina salespeople. They were busy with more sophisticated clients, but the look of disdain was instant when they noticed the fisherman, dressed modestly in tattered clothes and clearly humble in appearance. Tom, a middle-aged salesman with a fake smile and expensive clothes, was the first to approach. He looked Marcus up and down, trying to hide his laughter when he heard the fisherman asking about yachts. "You're joking, right?" Tom asked, his voice dripping with mockery. "No offense, buddy, but do you really think you can afford a boat like that?" He gestured to one of the most luxurious yachts anchored in the marina, a giant with a white hull and golden details. The other salespeople, realizing the situation, began to join in the mockery. One of them, Rick, who was with a nearby client, couldn't hold back his laughter. "Look at that, he wants to buy a yacht. It must be his childhood dream," he scoffed, speaking loud enough for everyone to hear. "With those clothes, he can barely afford a paddle." Laughter began to echo discreetly among them, and Marcus, who until then had been trying to maintain his dignity, felt his face burn with embarrassment. He knew that his simple appearance did not match the luxury of that place, and that the cruel comments were directed at him because, in the eyes of those men, he was nothing more than a poor dreamer. I just wanted to know about some options," Marcus replied, his voice steady, but his heart heavy. He felt humiliation wash over him, and although he wanted to leave in silence, the urge to cry was strong. But he couldn't give them that pleasure. With immense effort, Marcus gathered what was left of his dignity and turned away, leaving the marina without looking back. The laughter and comments continued behind him, but Marcus walked away slowly from that place. Each step was a reminder of the humiliation he had just suffered, and his heart, usually so strong, was now heavy and sad. As Marcus left the Bayside Marina, he followed the path back to Cedar Key with a foggy mind and a heavy heart. The small fishing village where he had built his life was the perfect antidote to the embarrassment he had suffered. Upon arrival, the contrast with the luxury of Miami was immediate. Dirt roads, modest houses, and the salty smell of the sea that had always welcomed him. His home, a simple wooden cabin painted in faded blue, was located by the beach, surrounded by palm trees and fishing nets. The interior was as modest as he was. Old furniture, walls adorned with black and white photographs of his ancestors, and a few valuable items, an old radio, a worn wristwatch, and of course his greatest inheritance, the boat Hope. As he entered, Marcus was greeted by the comforting silence of his home. He took off his shoes, feeling the cold wooden floor, and went to the backyard, where the Hope was anchored. The boat, aged and with a worn hull, was a reflection of his own life, simple but full of stories. As he began to take care of the boat, cleaning the nets and checking the engine, his mind couldn't shake off the treatment he had received at the marina. The laughter and cruel comments from the Miami vendors still echoed in his head. He remembered Tom, Rick, and the others, all so sure that his humble appearance made him incapable of achieving any dream. That humiliation hurt him, but at the same time, he knew he couldn't let himself be brought down by those who didn't understand a person's worth. While working on the Hope, Marcus reflected on his life choices. He knew that, in the eyes of others, a man with his fortune should live surrounded by luxuries. But he didn't care about that. His true wealth came from his roots, from his connection to the sea, and from his simplicity. He was a billionaire, but money was never what brought him happiness. The only thing he truly desired was to sail freely, away from any judgment. As the sun began to set, painting the sky orange and pink, Marcus paused for a moment and looked at the horizon. He loved that place, and even after being humiliated, he knew that nothing could take away his peace of mind. Determined not to let the incident affect his life, he made a silent promise. If he were to fulfill his dream of a yacht, he would do it at his own pace, in his own time. That night, as the wind gently blew and the sound of the waves rocked his home, Marcus lay down, but sleep did not come easily. He thought about how people often judged others by their appearance, unaware of what truly lay behind each face. But deep down, he knew that lesson was still to come. At dawn, something had changed in Marcus. He decided that not only would he buy the yacht he so desired, but he would also show those who had humiliated him that true value lies in actions, not appearances. With that in mind, he began to plan his next move, aware that soon his simple and quiet life would change in a way that no one in Miami could imagine. The next morning, Bayside Marina continued its routine of luxury and ostentation. Salespeople were busy with refined clients, discussing yacht sales and exclusive services when Marcus returned. This time, he was not alone. Beside him, a group of well-dressed executives and robust security guards walked with him, forming a retinue that immediately caught everyone's attention. The salespeople, among them Tom and Rick, initially did not recognize Marcus. Upon seeing him back, they laughed among themselves, believing he had returned to apologize for his joke about wanting to buy a yacht. "Look, the Fisherman is back. I bet he came to say sorry," Rick commented loudly, while Tom made subtle gestures of mockery. They were convinced that the simple man would not have the courage to return after the disdain they had shown him. Marcus, however, ignored the malicious comments. With a serious and determined expression, he approached the marina manager, a burly man named Gerald, who was busy discussing the details of a sale with other clients. Upon noticing Marcus and his entourage approaching, Gerald frowned, but before he could ask anything, Marcus spoke. "Gerald, I am the new owner of the marina," Marcus said, his voice low but filled with authority. Silence fell over the place. Gerald looked at Marcus, confused, unsure how to react. "What do you mean by that?" he questioned, hesitating. "I bought Bayside last night," Marcus replied, his expression impassive. "And I came back to settle the score with those who humiliated me here yesterday." The laughter of the salespeople died instantly. Tom and Rick, who had mocked Marcus, were now pale, unable to process what was happening. Tension began to hang in the air, and the gazes of the other marina employees turned to Marcus, filled with curiosity and fear. The man they had underestimated was about to reveal something that could change everything. "You treated me as if I were incapable of achieving my dreams," Marcus continued, looking directly at Tom and Rick, who shrank under his gaze. "Now, I am here to show that a person's true worth is not in their appearance, but in their actions. And you, who judge me so quickly, will face the consequences of that." With a nod to his executives, Marcus gave the silent and powerful order. Gerald, realizing the gravity of the situation, tried to regain control, but it was already too late. The other salespeople began to back away, feeling the weight of the growing tension. Tom, visibly nervous, tried to justify himself. "It was just a joke, sir. We didn't know who you were." His voice trembled, and he could barely finish the sentence. Marcus interrupted him, his voice firm. "Exactly. You didn't know, and that's why you judged. Now, I am here to correct that mistake. All of you who participated in that humiliation are fired." The words fell like a bomb. The marina, once so full of arrogance, plunged into a deep silence. The employees looked at each other, many with wide eyes in shock. Tom and Rick exchanged desperate glances, trying to find a way out, but they knew there was no escaping the consequences of their actions. The air at the Bayside Marina was thick with tension and surprise when Marcus finally revealed that he had not only returned to buy a yacht, but had acquired the entire marina. The sellers, who had previously laughed at him and treated him with disdain, were now paralyzed, unable to process the magnitude of what they had just heard. Tom, the seller who had mocked Marcus the most, tried to approach quickly, his face pale with nervousness. "Look, I'm sorry. It was just a joke. We didn't know who you were," he began, his voice trembling and forcing an awkward smile. Marcus interrupted him, his voice calm but firm. "You don't understand, Tom. I'm not here to play games. I came to fulfill a dream, something that many of you would probably find ridiculous, given my simple demeanor. But I was mistreated just because of my appearance." The faces of the sellers immediately changed from arrogance to shame. They began to realize that the man they had scorned, the humble fisherman dressed simply, was actually much more powerful and important than they had ever imagined. "I am a billionaire," Marcus continued, looking directly into the eyes of each one of them. "I chose to live as a fisherman, not because I need to, but because that is the life I want. The only thing I truly desire is freedom at sea. And now, after being treated with disdain, I am here to ensure that no one else is judged by their appearance." Absolute silence took over the place. The other sellers, once so confident, were now exchanging nervous glances, feeling the weight of shame for having underestimated Marcus. Tom, who had been trying to justify himself, was left speechless, embarrassed to realize the colossal mistake he had made. "I bought this marina because I wanted a place of respect to acquire my yacht," Marcus explained, his voice still serene. "And now, with you all here, I know I won't find that. Therefore, I am firing everyone who participated in my humiliation." The employees around began to murmur, some in shock, others in relief, as they knew that the arrogant atmosphere of the cellars was about to change. Tom and the others, now aware of the consequences of their actions, stepped back, desperate for a way to escape the situation. "Please give us another chance," pleaded one of the other sellers, but the plea was ignored. Marcus was determined. "I warned you," he said firmly. "Now, the new managers of the marina will ensure that this place operates with dignity and respect, and anyone who cannot adapt will be removed." Marcus called all the marina employees for a meeting in the large central courtyard, where the luxurious yachts were anchored. The sun was shining brightly, and the sound of the waves gently lapping against the hulls of the boats created a calming atmosphere, although the tension in the air was palpable. The salespeople, still stunned by Marcus's revelation, were silent, while the other employees gathered, curious and anxious about what was about to happen. When everyone was present, Marcus stepped up onto a small platform, gaining a little more height above the crowd. His posture was calm, but there was a firmness in his gaze that captured everyone's attention. He took a deep breath before beginning, aware that the words he chose would have a profound impact. "Thank you for gathering here," he began, his voice clear and strong. "I know that many of you were surprised by what happened yesterday, and some, like me, must feel ashamed of what occurred." He paused, observing the expressions on the employees' faces. Some looked visibly embarrassed, others appeared astonished, but all were listening attentively. "I came here to fulfill a simple dream, to buy a yacht and sail freely. I was treated with disdain and mockery simply because of my appearance," Marcus continued, not averting his gaze. "But what you didn't know is that I am the new owner of this marina. And more importantly, what should have been a lesson in respect has turned into shame for many of you." The faces began to change as his words sank in. Some salespeople, who had maintained a facade of indifference until then, now looked deeply ashamed. Marcus continued, his voice laden with wisdom. "Money should never determine a person's worth. I chose to live simply, not out of necessity, but because that is the life I want. The fact that I am dressed like a fisherman does not mean I am inferior to anyone. And that misjudgment you made was grave." He could feel the growing tension among the employees, some beginning to lower their heads in embarrassment. "I'm not here to take revenge," he continued, "but to teach a lesson. Each of you must remember that respect is fundamental, regardless of who is in front of you, whether they are a billionaire or a simple worker." Marcus looked around, meeting the eyes of several employees who showed regret and reflection. Humility and dignity are values that no amount of money can buy. Now, I hope you all understand this, for those who do not learn will be left out of this place. With those words, Marcus stepped down from the platform, and the silence was broken only by the sound of the waves. The employees began to murmur among themselves, many expressing regret and promising to change their attitudes. Some, especially those who had mocked him, were red-faced with shame, unable to meet Marcus's gaze. After his powerful speech about humility and respect, Marcus felt that the atmosphere at the marina had changed, but he still had a decision to make. With a serious expression, he turned to Tom and the other salespeople who had participated in his humiliation. The silence of the crowd around them deepened, and everyone knew what was about to happen. "I'm going to fire all of you," Marcus announced, his voice firm and unwavering. "Each one of you who participated in the disdain and mockery is being fired. You do not deserve to work in my business." The faces of Tom and the others transformed from arrogance to pure panic. Tom, who had been the most sarcastic of them all, tried to approach, his voice trembling. "Please, sir, give us another chance. We didn't know who you were. It was a mistake, a misunderstanding," he said, desperately trying to save his job. The marina manager, Gerald, also intervened, trying to control the situation. "Marcus, maybe we can resolve this another way. They are sorry." But Gerald was interrupted by Marcus, who spoke calmly but with determination. "No, Gerald. No one who treats others with disdain deserves a place here. This is not just about me, but about the kind of environment I want to create. His firmness made it clear that this decision was final. The other salespeople, now in panic, began to plead. Please, we are sorry. We promise to change. We will be different. But their pleas fell on deaf ears. Marcus had already made his decision, and he knew that allowing those behaviors to continue would be a mistake. As they faced the consequences of their actions, Marcus watched with a serene expression. He felt no anger, but rather a deep sense of justice. Those men needed to understand that respect was not something that could be demanded only when convenient. It was something that should be offered to everyone, regardless of their appearance or status. Gerald, realizing the inevitability of the situation, nodded reluctantly. He saw that Marcus was determined to move forward, and although he was initially opposed, he began to understand that this was the necessary change for the Marina. With the salespeople now completely defeated and ashamed, Marcus walked away, leaving them to face the reality of their dismissals. The crowd of employees who had witnessed everything began to murmur, some in agreement, others surprised, but all aware that an important lesson had been learned. With the Bayside Marina now under his control, Marcus knew it was time to take the final step of his dream, to choose and buy the yacht he had always desired. After exploring the various yachts available at the Marina, he finally came across the Equinox, a luxurious white-hulled yacht, elegant and imposing, just as he had always imagined. As he approached the Equinox for the last time, Marcus felt a wave of satisfaction and happiness. He made the purchase with a smile on his face, knowing that he would finally have the freedom to sail wherever he wanted. The transaction was quick, and within minutes, he was officially the owner of the yacht. The moment he stepped aboard the Equinox, Marcus felt a deep sense of accomplishment. He entered the cockpit, placed his hands on the wheel, and started the yacht's engine. As the boat began to glide through the calm waters of Miami Bay, a sense of peace washed over him. The sound of the sea, the wind on his face, and the sight of the horizon ahead were everything he had ever wanted. As he sailed away from the shore, Marcus looked back and saw the Marina shrinking in the distance. There were the memories of his humiliation, but also of his overcoming. He had proven to himself and to others that true luxury was not in material possessions, but in being respected and living according to who we truly are. That feeling of freedom enveloped him completely. He maneuvered the Equinox into open waters, away from any other vessels, and stopped the yacht, allowing himself to simply float in the calm waters. Marcus stepped out onto the deck, stood there for a few moments, closed his eyes, and took a deep breath. The smell of the sea, the warmth of the sun, and the gentle breeze combined to create a moment of pure happiness. He knew that his true wealth was not the money he possessed, but the peace of mind and dignity he had earned. Now, he was free to follow his path, without caring about what others thought. With a serene smile, Marcus took a bottle of champagne he had saved for this occasion and made a silent toast to the sea, to his dream fulfilled, and to the life he had chosen to live. As the sparkling liquid flowed smoothly, he felt completely in harmony with the world around him. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. These other stories will also move you. Click to continue watching.